Hello, today I'm going to discuss the five language components, which are phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics, and pragmatics. I'm going to define what these five language components are and how they apply to literacy development and instruction. Phonology is the study of the speech sound language system, otherwise known as phonemes. It includes the characteristics of speech sounds. This applies to literacy development in the form of the student recognizing syllables, rhymes, words that begin and end with a specific sound, and recognizing sounds in words. Morphology is the study of the rules of morphemes, which are the minimal units of language and how they are used. This applies to literacy development in the form of the student recognizing, comprehending, and manipulating small units of meaning. Examples of that include prefixes, suffixes, and root words. Syntax refers to the rules that relate to how words can be combined to form sentences in a language. This applies to literacy development in the form of the student understanding the meanings behind word order, structure, and punctuation. Semantics refers to the meaning of words and the combination of words in a language. This applies to literacy development in the form of the student knowing what the word means as they encounter it in a text. They must have adequate decoding skills and exposure to a rich literacy environment to facilitate this skill within their literacy development. Pragmatics refers to the area of linguistics that puts meaning into context. In other words, I'd like to call this social communication. This applies to literacy development in the form of the student having the ability to use language for different purposes, to adapt language to meet the needs of the listener or the situation, and following the often quote unquote unspoken rules of conversation and storytelling. Overall, as educators, it is important for us to support students with exceptionalities. Having the knowledge and the understanding of these five language components can help us meet the needs of our students. For example, students with learning disabilities such as ASD, ADD, or ADHD will need modifications and additional resources to support their linguistic skills. Identifying those skills within the language components can help us create instructional strategies to support their specific needs. Those instructional strategies and how we implement them is completely based on our students, their needs, their development, and if it is taking place in a large group instruction, a small group instruction, a differentiated small group instruction, or one-on-one session, depending again on the needs of the student or the students in general. There are developmentally appropriate research-based instructional strategies that I would like to mention, two of which are games and one of which is a simple instructional strategy. The first game is called Balder Dash. It is developed by GameWorks Creations in 1984. This is a game that targets vocabulary and the skill to define words. Players generate definitions of words, mostly unknown and obscure words, and vote on the one that represents the correct definition. Players' versions are presented along with the real definition. The second game is called Hink Pink. It is developed by Discovery Bay Games and it was developed in 2008. This is a game of riddles and rhymes that addresses phonology, semantics, morphology, and syntax. Players read descriptions or definitions for word pairs that rhyme. Um, the second the second game and the first game will have to be modified to meet the needs of the student. It can be modified to be more developmentally appropriate, age appropriate for the grade level, the student's ability, and simply teachers can use the games to get an idea and get an understanding of a fun way to engage students that will focus on building vocabulary skills and focusing again on the phonology, semantics, morphology, and syntax, which are fantastic, engaging activities that students can focus on their specific language skills. Like I said, depending on the student's needs, their abilities, and what they are able to do. The last instructional strategy that I would like to mention are read alouds. Kelsius and Griffith concurred and explained that read aloud experiences increase students' vocabulary development and comprehension growth, overall their reading comprehension. They also noted its potential to increase motivation to want to read while building the knowledge that is necessary for the successful acquisition of reading and writing. Reading aloud to children builds and supports their listening and speaking abilities, and enhances their overall language development. I believe that it is important for teachers to encourage their child's parent or guardian to reach out to the child every day to enhance their language and literacy skills. Thank you for listening to my webinar, and I hope that this information can be meaningful and useful for you as an educator and in your future teaching practices.